Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. Now, this afternoon, we shall be looking at the tourism sector in Jamaica. And there was an article that Zara Burt, investigative journalist of Jamaica, posted on her Substack, right? So that's the investigative journalist, Zara Burton, posted an article on her Substack site, in which she looked at the tourism sector. Now, her Substack website is 18 Degrees North Investigations, right? That's in 18 Degrees North Investigations. And that is what her website, you can be directed to her website. Now, the article here is coming from Dr. J. Lennon, that he is the author, even though it has been posted on Zarbert's website, but the article was written by John, is it Lennon? By Dr. J. Lennon, right? By Dr. J. Lennon. And the article is entitled Tourism in Jamaica, an industry based on misinformation and exploitation. Now, so often we hear in Jamaica's media, right, in the Jamaican media landscape, the Jamaican media landscape, that tourism is what is going to grow our economy. And tourism is a prosperous sector. In fact, it is the most prosperous sector in the Jamaican economy. That is what we often hear. And we hear of hundreds of thousands of arrivals of tourists, right? People coming from all around the world, particularly from North America, from the United States of America. And they're heading to Jamaican shore. And we have all of these important people, these VIPs, who visit Jamaica often, which makes Jamaica a playground for tourists. And one would have thought that all the years that we have been selling our tourism product, that we would have sought to merge tourism with the livelihood of the ordinary man. We have not been able to do so, I must say, apart from, a few crafts and, art and crafts and vendors who sell their products, and a few people who work in the tourism sector through services, right? Through the offering of their services, and to the workers there on the spot of the hotels. Now, we have here that the recent industrial action at various hotels in Jamaica is indicative that Jamaica's tourism-dependent economy is a failure. And this is how the author opens up his article. But if a definitive economic proof is needed, look no further than the gross domestic product, that's the GDP per capita, wages and tax contributions, because they are the primary indicators of the strength of an economy. And our numbers show a country in dire straits. So it means, therefore, that we are not growing as a nation. And even though we have received and we continue to receive huge loads of tourists to Jamaica every year. And I think that last year, particularly during the Christmas holidays, we understand we received record numbers of tourists to the island. So we have GDP and wages. The GDP of a country, the measurement of economic output, is directly linked to its industries. For instance, in 2022, the South Korean tech giant Samsung alone contributed a whopping 22.4%. That's US $350. That's US 350 billion US dollars, right? So it's US 340 billion to the country's impressive US 1.6 trillion GDP. So the GDP per capita is the economic output of a nation per person, the GDP population, and it is used to measure national prosperity. So whatever GDP is, that is what is used to measure national prosperity. So the higher the GDP per capita, the more prosperous a nation or country is. And prosperous countries tend to manufacture. And I'm very happy that Dr. J. Lennon is suggesting here that prosperous countries tend to manufacture. There's no way around it. And that is why now China is more prosperous than the United States. The United States might have a bigger economy, a larger economy than China in terms of its, output, but in terms of productivity, that China is a much bigger economy than the United States. And that is why we see that many people were clamoring for Trump and for a new way of doing things. If not Trump, whomever is offering a new way of doing things, Americans were clamoring after those individuals, saying that the neoliberal economic policies that is often defended in Washington is not working for the majority of Americans. And the same thing for Jamaica. The neoliberal policies that are often promoted in Gordon House are not working in the interest of the masses of Jamaicans. Now, in Jamaica, in Jamaica, tourism contributed 33.6% of GDP in 2023. So in Jamaica, tourism contributed 33.6% of GDP in 2023. And that is in the amount of US 5.7 billion. It is fair to assume that the GDP per capita should exceed a living wage, otherwise a country would be just surviving. The income tax threshold, the amount earned that is exempt from taxation, is a good yardstick to gauge a living wage, and it's almost US 11,000 in Jamaica, just 11,000. So one would expect our GDP per capita to exceed US 11,000, but it doesn't. It doesn't. Tourism helped to deliver a GDP per capita of just under $6,900 US in 2023. Let me repeat that. Tourism helped to deliver a GDP per capita of just under $6,900 US in 2023. It is roughly $22,700 US for our smaller neighbor, Barbados, which also boasts a tourism product. So Barbados GDP ranks more than 3 times ours, right? More than 3 times that of Jamaica. The $6,900 US equates to a measly $130 US per week. And to put that in context, the weekly cost to provide lunch for a high school student is about $25 US, and a 2-pound loaf of bread is approximately $5 US, right? But the salaries in Jamaica, the wages that we pay our workers, is running at $130 US per week. And a 2-pound loaf of bread is $5. And the students' lunch money is running at $25, right? Per day. To provide lunch for our high school student is around $25 US. I'm wondering if this is per day. Maybe not, but let us continue. GDP per capita is theoretical and can be disputed. And when we look at lunch money also includes bus fare. So it's possible that it's lunch and bus fare combined might be there. It's possible that they're paying $25 US per day. It's possible. GDP per capita is theoretical and can be disputed, but wages are indisputable, and Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett revealed about a year ago that lower-end workers make up between 70 to 80% of employment in the industry. So the large majority of the workers in the tourism sector in Jamaica are the lower-end workers. While we don't know specifically what lower-end workers make, during recent protests at Bahia Principe in Ronald Bay, Housekeeping staff reportedly said they received a basic salary of $37,000. That's $237 fortnightly. So they're receiving $237 fortnightly. What can that do? Which would equate to $18,500 weekly under US $120, or about 6,000 US dollars a year, right? That is what they receive in a so-called prosperous tourist industry. The $18,500 is just above the minimum wage in Jamaica of 15,000 US, or under what? No, 15,000 Jamaican dollars, under 100 US dollars per week. Let me repeat that. The 18,500 Jamaican dollars, that is, it's just above the minimum wage in Jamaica of 15,000 Jamaican dollars, and that's under 100 US dollars per week. There are a lot of single mothers working in housekeeping. And that's a very good point that he's raising here. It appears that tourism is actually perpetuating poverty, which it does, and expansion cannot improve the plight of workers. When questioned about low wages in 2022, this is what Robin Russell, the president of the Jamaica Hotel and Tourism Association, had to say. And I quote, "Wages are the largest single expense of any hotel. And if we raise those wages indiscriminately without a raise in income, they run the risk of bankrupting not just their individual businesses, but the entire industry." In light of the resolution at the Royalton Grill and elsewhere, this statement appears false. This is an industry built on a model of exploitation. And for those who still maintain in the economic importance of tourism, look at the contributions to the treasury. So let's look at taxes. Taxes run countries and major industries should contribute proportionately to the treasury. During the April 2024 sectoral debate, while celebrating record earnings, Minister Bartlett boasted, and I quote, "The country also earned US dollars 103.5 million, or 16 billion in departure tax, $4.6 billion in airport improvement fees, airline passenger levy, $9.2 billion, passenger fees and charges, $11 billion, and room tax, $3.6 billion, for total direct revenue flows into the consolidated fund of US dollars 345.8 million, or 53.6 billion Jamaican dollars. However, this was nothing to celebrate. Tourism contributed an alleged 34% to GDP, but 53.6 billion Jamaican dollars was under 5% of the 1.3 trillion 2023 to 2024 budget. So 5% of the 1.3 trillion 2023. So let me repeat that. This was nothing to celebrate. Tourism contributed an alleged 34% to GDP, but 53.6 billion was under 5% of the 1.31 trillion 2023 to 2024 budget. It is also worth noting that Minister Bartlett did not mention a corporate tax contribution from the hoteliers. This is unsurprising because many operate under an incredibly favorable tax regime with 10-year relief on corporation and consumption tax, as well as import duties. So they have a lot of favorable conditions, and yes, they're not paying their workers, and they're not making any great contribution to our budget to developing the Jamaican landscape, as it were, to developing our infrastructure. The primary reason for these incentives is because hotels create thousands of jobs, and tourism has helped deliver an alleged low 4.2% unemployment rate. I like what he says, alleged. However, personal income tax should be a critical contributor to the treasury. but very few of the 367,000 workers earn near enough to pay it. There's obviously a problem when the biggest industry contributes under 5% direct tax and very little income tax to annual budgets. And this is one of the things that Michael Manley tried to prevent, right? He was suggesting that all these FIDs, as the foreign investment, the direct foreign investments, should pay taxes to help the development of Jamaica. And of course, they were against it, particularly the Jamaican oligarchy, along with their foreign counterparts. They decided that they would derail the Michael Manley-led government because of what he was doing, the reforms that he was making to the government. And they weren't even radical. These were just practical way of building Jamaica. But there's something in my spirit, something that I perceive is happening here. It doesn't seem like the forces, the powers that be, do not want Jamaica to grow, right? Whether they're local powers, the local powers that be, or foreign powers that be, it does not seem that Jamaica is a country that these people want to be developed and to grow. It seems to me that the order is to be maintained, and that exploitative order should be maintained. That plantation-like model that we had during slavery and colonialism is the model that they want to remain intact, because we see what happens in Barbados, that Barbados, even though a much smaller country than Jamaica is way ahead of us in terms of their tourism product, and in many other ways, in every other indicator, social and economic indicators, Barbados stands tall and is way ahead of Jamaica. The embarrassing GDP per capita, and more so the pathetic wages and pitiful tax contribution are clear indicators or indications that the importance of tourism is fabricated. And the claim by the government that tourism is our lifeblood is a fallacy. And I've said that before, that it cannot be the lifeblood of our economy. I would say criminality is. The recent scathing comments by the Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown regarding the actions of the Jamaica-based Sandals Resorts International highlighted that the goings-on of hotels in Jamaica are not accepted elsewhere. Brown wants the hotelier to consider leaving the islands because it had adopted a policy of not wanting to pay taxes. He went on to say that their model was reminiscent of the colonial period and slavery, and the industry could not attract workers because of the low wages. So in other words, what we're practicing in Jamaica is reminiscent of what happened during slavery and colonialism. And that is why I've been saying to you that we are still following the plantation model, and Jamaica is a grand plantation, right? And that is why our tourism sector is there, flourishing for the wealthy, for the privileged class, but it is exploiting the entire country, particularly the workers who are involved in that industry, who work for that industry, right? They are exploited. In Jamaica, the expansion of all-inclusive continues, and add insult to injury, it is being aided by the use of the people's money to construct airports. Listen to this. This is a very important aspect of Dr. John Lennon's article. In Jamaica, I repeat, the expansion of all-inclusives continues, and add insult to injury, it is being aided by the use of the people's money to construct airports. Without conducting a cost-benefit analysis, millions of USD or US dollars were spent to expand the Ian Fleming International Airport to accommodate one airline company. And before those of you who come from, oh yeah, so what do you expect us to do? We have to build new airports, right? Yeah, we have to build new airports, but we must ensure that the product is lucrative, is profitable. So when we're bringing in all these people, we must ensure that they pay their taxes and that we're not giving them too much in terms of, you know, tax-free, and these free duties, right? These free import duties. We have to remove some of these things. They have to pay their fair share. They can't be millionaires and we're, expanding their pockets, right? We are making their pockets much bigger. And at the end of the day, Jamaicans are poorer. The country is left poorer because they laugh at us, right? And they will consider us as their slaves, which we are. And to double down on government support, the Prime Minister recently announced that plans are underway for the construction of another airport in the Grill. In a statement, the opposition People's National Party fully acknowledged the value of expanding Jamaica's tourism infrastructure, but urged a rethink. More than a rethink is needed. This gross mismanagement is possible because of the widely touted, unsubstantiated benefits of tourism, right? And that's what he's saying, that it's widely touted, but it's unsubstantiated. The benefits are not there. Many of the things that we tell ourselves, I think one of these days I should just itemize the lies we tell ourselves, because there are hundreds of lies that Jamaicans tell themselves, and that's why we are not able to move forward. We're moving backwards. I am not anti-tourism, this writer is suggesting, but this version of tourism that has been created under the Jamaican Labour Party and the People's National Party is not working under both governments. It's not only JLP, but PNP. One solution is the walkout of all the staff nationwide, but that is not going to happen. Therefore, the creation of better paying industries and a skilled workforce are needed. The COVID debacle illustrated the fragility of tourism, but due to mismanagement and lack of leadership, the economy is not diversifying. Manufacturing is essential, but Jamaica has always had extremely high electricity rates, and this has prevented investment in food processing, proper waste, solid waste management, and numerous other energy-dependent industries. And that's true. Our supermarket shelves are full of snacks from Trinidad. Why? Because Trinidad has cheap electricity. However, solar investment pays for itself within a few years, so the generation of incredibly cheap electricity is possible. Jamaica could have a vibrant economy if free solar and wind energy were exploited with the same enthusiasm as the people and the land. And when the inevitable hurricane strikes Jamaica, what will recover quicker, tourism or solar-powered manufacturing? That's the question he's asking. The Prime Minister recently spoke about tourism benefiting all Jamaicans, but the strikes and protests at various hotels tell a different story. To be honest, I'm shocked that there aren't more. We must demand an immediate review of the industry. I don't think that there is going to be an immediate review of the industry, Dr. John Lennon, because I think what is happening in Jamaica is that people are happy with the status quo and they like what they see and they believe what their government tells them. So as a result of that, they're not going to demand a review of what is happening in all industries, but particularly the tourism sector. I don't think that Jamaicans are going to have that review done because, everything, all our perspectives, all analysis is colored by party colors, right? By what party you belong to. So it's colored green or orange. And you can't look beyond green or orange. That is what happens in Jamaica. And that is why we're not progressing as a people, as a nation. Collectively, as a people, we're backward and we're way behind in many, many indicators, social and economic indicators. We are lagging behind and we're competing with Haiti. I think at this moment, I think we are happy competing with Haiti, right? We are happy competing with the most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere. And I'm not suggesting here that it is Haiti's fault, but I'm suggesting that whether we like it or not, we can argue and we can talk about why Haiti is in the current position, but it is, whether we like it or not, the most impoverished island, the most impoverished nation in the Western Hemisphere, and Jamaica is fast heading in that direction, because anything that is of low standard, that is what we want to compare ourselves with. That is how we are as a people. And when you look at what is happening on these social platforms, you know, these podcasts, all they're about is JLP or PNP, and which one can say is, you know, which party is more corrupt, right? We are not trying to understand the system and to discuss things like these and say that both JLP and the PNP are responsible for our current predicament, right? We don't want to talk about these things. We don't want to be balanced. What we want to do is to defend our party interests, even though the party doesn't care about you. Andrew Holness does not go to bed, and I don't know Andrew Holness. I've never met him. And I can say Mark Golding, I have never met the man also, but I can say both of them, be they Andrew Holness or Mark Golding, they do not go to bed thinking about you. They don't know you. They only know that they're representing a country called Jamaica. And I can tell you that in many cases, they're representing the elites, the oligarchs in Jamaica. They're not representing you. They're not representing the common man. That's not who they are representing. And how, you know, when are you going to wake up to see, to smell the coffee that Andrew Holness, neither Andrew Holness nor Markaji is representing your interest in Parliament? They're pretending to do so, but they're not. And you can only look at your lives and look at theirs to see the wide gap, right? That they're living in mansions and their children are doing fantastically well, right? And they're accruing wealth, they're building wealth, while you are being impoverished every day. Will you continue not to demand more of your politicians? And let me say something. We can't advance solutions to Jamaican problems until we first admit that we have a problem. We can't advance solutions to Jamaica's problems, right? To the problems that bedevil that island of Jamaica, until we first acknowledge that that there is a problem. A child cannot improve on his or her grades until the child accepts, and the parents also, that the child has poor grades and he needs to improve. And another thing, having admitted the problem, we need to also admit and acknowledge truth. What is the root cause of the problem? Then we can seek solutions to solve the problem. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Remember to like the videos so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform.